we've just beaten Nottingham Forest to go through to our first League Cup final. This is 2017 when we went on and won it under the Portuguese Pulis, aka Jose Mourinho. After beating Forest 2-0 on the night, 5-0 on aggregate. Stan Collymore, Brian Clough, Nigel Clough, Stuart Pearson, Brent Gobit, Sandro, whatever you call yourself these days. Your lads are going hell of a beating. Okay? Now get back to the Championship where you belong. Pack your bags and leave already. I hope that you get relegated. You don't turn up in the semi-final. You should be, ashamed of yourselves. But back to Manchester United Football Club. I thought Ten Hag got the team selection completely wrong. It was irrelevant to play that team against Forest. The game was already won. We were 3-0 up from the first leg. Martial should have started. Rashford shouldn't have started. He shouldn't have been on the bench. Sancho should have started. And now, if we don't win the League Cup on February 26th against Newcastle, then Ten Hag's fault. And I'll do the same. Remember when Arsenal lost in the League Cup final to Birmingham? That was the straw that brought the camel's back and the catalyst for them to say Wenger out. That's when they were fed up with Wenger. They wanted rid of him, and they never changed their mind from that moment on. Okay? And Ten Hag, if we don't win against Newcastle, it's his fault. Because now we're going to be knackered against Crystal Palace, who have had about 10 days rest. We've got so many games in a short space of time. Okay? And Newcastle will be fresh as a daisy before the League Cup final. You know what I mean? And do you know what? Bruno Guimaraes, the dirty, rotten cheat that tried to injure a fellow opponent, if you did that on a Saturday night outside a nightclub, you'd be arrested and charged for assault. That's what it was. A disgrace that was. No place on the football pitch. And he should have got, if you get a red card in the competition you're playing in, you should be not allowed to play in the next game in that competition. Those should be the rules. So the media needs to cut onto what I've just said and take it at face value and do something about it. Okay? So I can't get excited about that win. It doesn't mean anything to me, to be honest. Having said though, that's the only reason I want to win this competition. I don't want Ten Hag to be successful, but I don't want Newcastle to win their first trophy since 1969 when they won the Fairs Cup, so I'm slightly torn here. But even if we win the League Cup, you do know, don't you, Far Torreds? Birmingham won the League Cup. They got relegated a year later, right? With Alex McLeish. Louis van Gaal won us the FA Cup, got sacked there and then. Wigan won the FA Cup, having been already relegated from the Premier League. Okay. Portsmouth won the FA Cup under Harry Redknapp 2008. A couple of years later they were relegated, they ended up crippled in debt, and now they're languishing in League One and their fans are protesting against their owners. This is Man United fans know as well. Swansea won the League Cup under Michael Laudrup. He got sacked, I think, the season after. Spurs got to a League Cup final a couple of years ago, and they sacked Mourinho a couple of days before the final took place. If Mourinho was installed, they would have won. Crystal Palace got to a FA Cup final under Alan Pardew. So Newcastle getting to the League Cup final is the equivalent of Palace getting there, and we have to beat Newcastle in the final, because if we don't beat them, I'll erupt like a volcano. I will be really, really angry. I'll be furious. I'll be frustrated, as you can tell by my demeanour, if we don't beat them. And that's all. The only reason I want to win the League Cup is that I don't want Ten Hag to be successful. But we've already won the League Cup, so it's irrelevant. Didn't keep Louis van Gaal in the job. You bring Mourinho in to win your cups, to win your titles, not cups. If he wanted to win cups, he would have kept Louis van Gaal. So if Ten Hag wins it, good for you. You've equalled Sarri's, one trophy. You've equalled Harry Redknapp, Michael Laudrup, Alex McLeish. So it doesn't mean anything to me in normal circumstances, but this is not a normal circumstances. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But now we need to pick ourselves up. They must be knackered and I hope and pray and wish that it doesn't affect us, because if it doesn't, if it does come back to haunt us, I will come back to this and I'll say, I told you so.